Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mayor Cyril Jefferson convening a special meeting of the High Point City Council. Here with me in the room, we have council members Andrew McKeever, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Peters. At this time, we won't adopt our agenda, but we need to hear from somebody on something. So we're going to go ahead and ask Madam. I hope I did that right.
I like that.
That was great.
We're going to hear from Madam City Manager Tasha Logan Ford to introduce what we're discussing today in terms of proposed census tracts for inclusion and Opportunity Zones 2.0 program.
Thank you, Mayor. And members of council, our Economic Development Director is going to share a presentation with you all about opportunity zones. We are still, I think, a little bit early in this process, but we wanted to make sure that we were having this conversation before the state started to release their process, and then we were in a situation while we were of trying to play a little bit of catch up. As things have changed, in 2018, there was a process where at least every eligible census tract had a tract that was eligible for opportunity zones. As a matter of fact, High Point had 3, and we'll share some of that information. As things have changed a little bit, we know that the American Community Survey, which is the process that identifies these boundaries, has not been finalized or released, so there's preliminary data that we're working with. But the reason we're bringing this to you now is that in April, sometime in April, the state is going to open up their portal and their process. It'll be available for 30 days where local governments, general citizens can submit eligible census tracts, and also economic development organizations can present tracts. So staff has actually taken a look at council's strategic plan. We've looked at where you all want to invest in different areas of the city. We've also overlaid that with these areas that might be eligible for other sources of either state or federal funds. And we have some recommendations to you, where we'd like to get a consensus from the group on how we can move forward with those 3. I just wanted to preface some of this presentation by letting you all know that nothing is set in stone. Once we submit these 3, we still have to work through the Commerce staff and the Governor's office to determine which ones would finally be included. And also that the city may put forward a number of tracts, but that doesn't preclude someone from the public or another organization submitting tracts as well that they would like to be considered. But I do think it's important, at least from a city perspective, for y'all to understand which ones we're recommending, why, and how they coincide with some of the projects that council has identified as priorities to advance. So with that lens and that context, that's how staff looked at this process. So at this time, I'll let Peter kind of jump in, and we'll walk through it and address questions as we go.
Thank you very much, Madam Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Peter Bishop, your Director of Economic Development, and we're going to talk about the Opportunity Zones program, Opportunity Zones 2.0. There we go. All right, so the original Opportunity Zones program was back in 2017, and can I move that?
There you go.
How's
Thank
that?
you. Thank you, Ryan.
Created in 2017 during the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and it was designed as a temporary tax incentive to help out distressed census tracts throughout the United States by using deferred capital gains, or gains when someone sells a stock or buys a stock and does not realize that capital gain. There was some analysis done at the time. I think Senator Scott of South Carolina was the chief proponent of this bill, that there were billions of dollars sitting on the sidelines in unrealized capital gains that were a great opportunity to reinvest into properties, and specifically into these economically distressed census tracts. There are 3 core benefits to the original Opportunity Zones program that will return in OZ 2.0, a deferral of capital gains on investments in these census tracts, and not just in real estate, but also business ventures within a qualified opportunity fund. There's a step up in basis, so essentially a lowering of the tax bill on those capital gains and other gains that you could have through an opportunity zone investment. And then a permanent exclusion. This is the one that I think has a lot of value to investors, a permanent exclusion of taxable income on new gains from an investment. So if you invest in an opportunity zone, all the additional capital that you gain through that investment is not taxable. So what were some of the results of OZ 1.0? Well, this is a little bit of a controversial question because one of the big criticisms of this program was that there were not a lot of requirements for data and reporting. So this is the best guess of many research institutions and universities that we have looked up in our department. But the mobilization of $150 billion of private equity through these qualified opportunity funds was through 2024 was one of the results, one of the research points that we identified. But 80% of that capital was invested into real estate projects. And so it really became a real estate investment program and real estate investment vehicle rather than another chance for some of these deferred capital gains was to invest them into businesses that are within these census tracts. So you could buy shares or relocate a business into an opportunity zone. If that business created jobs and made more capital, you would have a good investment. But the institutional capital and the private equity that was investing in these funds very much went into real estate to the tune of 80% of all funding. Another result of OZ 1.0 was that most of the funding went to the top 5% of eligible tracts. And an interesting wrinkle about the OZ 1.0 program is they didn't just allow you to select for an opportunity zone census tract that met the economic distress levels. They also allowed you to select census tracts that were adjacent to those that maybe didn't within that census tract meet those economic distress levels. A lot of money flowed into those adjacent tracts, which in many cases were in emerging markets or already gentrifying areas that were seeing a lot of investment. So they were already poised to grow. That's where a lot of the capital ended up going. And you see the breakdown here below. If you combine the residential real estate, which is mostly multifamily, and let's be clear, this was not affordable housing. This was all luxury and market rate type of multifamily investments. And then 30% into hospitality and commercial. Those were all real estate investments that were made, and of course 20% into operating business units. And certainly, council members, if there are any questions as I'm going through, please stop me. So transitioning to OZ 2.0 and the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, that was passed this past summer. A couple of these flaws in OZ 1.0 were pointed out and hopefully fixed. So first, there are stricter tract eligibility requirements. There are no longer contiguous tracts available that don't meet the economic distress levels as established in the first round. There's a change to the deferral of interest. So it used to be if you came into, so if the OZ 1.0 is still active right now. If you make an investment now, there's a limit to how far you can get your capital gains and other taxes, tax benefits. But in the new program, there's now going to be a rolling 5-year period for that investment. So there was a lot of incentive to go early in OZ 1.0. That incentive has been removed by allowing a rolling 5-year period to receive the benefits of that investment in OZ 2.0. The step-up in basis was increased, but only in rural census tracts. Now, here in the city of High Point, we do not have any rural census tracts. So there are some added benefits that are into rural North Carolina that the city of High Point may be competing against and trying to establish new tracts because investors tend to chase the largest gain and the lowest amount of tax liability. So provided that increased step-up in basis, which of course means a lowering of the total taxes on the investment, that's a big change from the last round. And then another big benefit to rural census tracts is reducing that standard sort of improvement. So they had a test, it's called the substantial improvement test, when they looked at an investment in a property. And it used to be that you had to invest at least 100% of the value of that property at the time of investment. They have now shrunk that to only 50%. So that significantly reduces the amount of investment required to achieve the best gains in a rural census tract, something that is not permitted or allowed in these rules in an urban census tract. So where are we at with making these decisions? I think Madam Manager said it very well. Right now we have preliminary data, so the U.S. Census Bureau through the American Community Survey has released data that indicates that perhaps we have an idea of what zones and what census tracts will be eligible for this program. But everything is preliminary at this time, so everything that you'll hear us talking about in different census tracts is not 100% official until we receive that information from the federal government. But based on those preliminary maps and data, there are 807 eligible tracts in North Carolina, and as the governors have by law can only select 25% of those tracts, that total winnows down to 202. Beg your pardon. And the timeline also, as Madam Manager mentioned, July 1st, 2026 is when the governor's office, in partnership with the Department of Commerce, will begin making the decisions on what of those 202 tracts are going to be, where they're going to be, how they're going to be divvied up. Treasury will issue a final OZ 2.0 map in the fall, and then in January of 2027, OZ 2.0 takes place. And then the following year, at the end of the year, December 31st, OZ 1.0 will officially end and those tracts expire. So a couple of factors when looking at zones to select and where we want to do some selection and how we want to make some picks here. We're looking for areas of the city that are ripe for new development, redevelopment, or experiencing strong momentum and investor interest. I think you can think of a few places in the city that meet that criteria. And then another factor for council, areas of the city that are eligible for other federal and local incentives, grants, or programs, areas where there's a strong need for housing, which we could arguably say throughout the city. I think we have said that in all of our housing fund and housing study discussions. But there's an opportunity to potentially stack incentives so that there's a stronger pull for investors to come and look at the city of High Point. And we do have programs in certain areas locally, and there are federal programs that overlay with some of the opportunity zones that we're going to talk about here in a moment. Beg your pardon.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So, do these investments, does the investment include substantial improvements? So for someone to take advantage of the tax credit, do they have to purchase the real estate and then improve it? Or can they just purchase it and sit on it and get all that tax benefit?
It does require investment,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
In order to get the benefits.
Some that were in the current opportunity zone that they haven't really done much to, so I was just curious.
Yeah, now you can purchase the property, but until you meet that substantial improvement test,
Okay.
that is also part of the law. And
Okay, good.
I'm not an expert on this. I know as much as a good economic developer should, but
Yeah.
I also don't have billions of capital gains that I'm investing in them. I would know for sure that.
But Peter, to
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Peters' point, the substantial investment has been reduced in OZ2, right?
Only for rural census
Only
tracts.
for rural census
Yes,
tracts.
sir.
So it's not 100% investment, it's shrunk down to 50%.
That's right. So an example, if you have a property that's worth $1 million in a rural and an urban census tract,
You don't have to invest $1 million.
you would only have to do $500,000 in a rural census tract to meet the test, but in an urban one, you would have to invest $1 million.
Yeah.
So in the first round of opportunity zones, you see the tracts that were selected. Tract 138, bordered on the north by Montaloo Avenue, and Quabain as it gets closer to Main Street. This is Main Street over here. And then the railroad line is here on the southern border, and then I-74 is there to the east. Tract 143 in Southwest High Point on Main Street, and then that's Market Center. And then I believe it comes up Green or Surrett, no, that's Green through there. And then also the rail line there on the north. And then the third tract was up in the northern part of the city with a very small portion that's included in High Point, specifically near the intersection of I-74 and 66. That's the section that's in High Point. And you'll see what's eligible, and again, preliminary information and data on this map. There are 13 census tracts that appear to be eligible for selection by the governor at the recommendation and nomination of the city. And a couple of observations here. So as you can see, most of South High Point is eligible. This map is shrunk down and cut off, and that's for a reason, because most of North High Point is not eligible, does not meet the the low to moderate income requirements of the program. The tract that I just showed you in Forsyth County, 33.13, which was eligible in 2018, is no longer eligible. So that cannot be reselected or resubmitted, nominated by the city. And then two of the other previously designated tracts, 138 and 143, remain eligible in the 2.0 nomenclature. So this map is, hopefully it's easy enough to read, has a couple colors going on, but this is starting to get into the understanding of stacking different incentives on top of each other to really get more bang for your buck and attract more investor interest. So this map is for new market tax credits that are typically geared toward commercial and mixed use projects, but they provide additional tax credits for investments in low-income census tracts. So essentially all of the census tracts that were identified as eligible for OZ 2.0 are also eligible for new markets tax credits. And we have actually a couple of new market tax credit projects in the works right now. I know Davis Furniture is working on that for their new building as a financing tool. This map shows some eligible census tracts that are identified as difficult to develop by HUD. Now, LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits, are available at any project throughout the city. They are not region or census tract specific. However, you do get enhanced benefits by developing a LIHTC project within one of these census tracts. And several of these are also in the OZ 2.0. So again, more bang for your buck as an investor, more attraction possibly to invest in these locations and develop projects here in High Point. And then while I have a map up, I will identify, we have two incentive policies that are generally used by businesses to attract them here, our job creation and investment policy. And then we also have our targeted downtown and Green Street or Green Drive incentives. Those would touch potential opportunity zones that we work with. We do have stronger considerations for South High Point in our job creation and investment policy, and then the downtown area, and then also Green Drive and the Southwest High Point would both be another stack on top of opportunity zones, new market tax credits, and then this bonus LIHTC that I just described. So again, Madam Manager, I appreciate your introduction to this and opening comments. Talking about the Department of Commerce taking the lead on behalf of the governor's office. So there is not a lot of detail yet published on what the exact steps will be other than that April 2026. So this next month, there will be a feedback form posted by the North Carolina Department of Commerce. It's very easy to find. If you look up North Carolina Department of Commerce opportunity zones, you will get to the page. You can sign up for email reminders like I did, and reach out to the program administrator like I did as well. But the point of this is there's a set of nomination criteria that the Department of Commerce has set that is going to guide their advisement of the governor on how these 25%, those 202 tracts, how they're going to be selected. So the first of those criteria is business development and job creation. Music to an economic developer's ears, but that would prioritize census tracts that have strong potential to attract new business and investment in high growth, high wage sectors. Those are things like corporate headquarters, life sciences, advanced manufacturing, aviation and aerospace, all sectors, quite frankly, that are active and strong here in the city of High Point. Also considering tracts that have existing industrial sites, mega sites, sites that have been identified or studied by EDPNC, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and the Department of Commerce. Thankfully, High Point also has those. However, not as many in eligible census tracts. A lot of our to-be-developed land product is in the northern part of High Point that is not eligible for this program. And then the state will also consider tracts with economic development projects underway with additional investment needed. We certainly have tracts that are eligible for the Opportunity Zones program that have a lot of economic activity currently and promise to create a lot more. And specifically, I'm thinking of some of our downtown census tracts, Southwest High Point, where there's been good momentum. There's been a lot of public investment. There's going to be additional public investment, and there's just opportunity sitting in some vacant or underutilized real estate that's out there. And this really feeds into this second criteria point of commerce, prioritizing tracts that are documented by local plans So the comprehensive plan that the city's recently gone through, the Southwest Mill District plan that has been identified, very much in our favor here, that look at recent investments for community revitalization, additional industrial site development, mixed-use projects, and other community-driven initiatives. So all the things that we've talked about in those plans could hopefully bear fruit in the prioritization of the zones that we're looking to recommend. And then finally, of course, housing, because Opportunity Zones 1.0 sort of laid the groundwork for it as a housing investment tool. This nomination criteria will really look at transit corridors, places where there's been public infrastructure investments, sites that local governments and communities have identified that are ripe for additional housing, and specifically multifamily housing in many ways. So these three criteria do align well with a lot of the work that City Council has done, that our departments have done in planning, and it looks pretty positive for some of the zones that we're looking to identify. So last time we went through this process in OZ 1.0, there were 3 tracks that were selected. 2 of them were eligible under the old rules by data. The third was eligible contiguous, but it was not. And then of the 3, if you recall, and I'm not sure how many staff members were here back in 2017, 2018, but track 140, which includes Truist Point Stadium, and sort of wraps to the west along the English Road and the rail line. That track was presented by and nominated by the city, but it was not selected. And then we got this track 3313 up in Forsyth County somehow. The city did not nominate that tract to any of the research that I have done or any of the staff that I spoke to that were here at that time. So this time around, staff is recommending those same 3 tracks, again at this early state with more changes and opportunity ahead of us. Those tracks are 138, 140, and 143. And those will be shown here in a map again. So to your left, you have the OZ 1.0 tracks. And then here are the tracks that are being proposed for OZ 2.0 this time around. So 138 again, including Washington Street and Cabane Avenue to Main. 143 again, South Main across the Market Center. And then we're on the north by the rail line. And there's 140 that includes it includes Truist Point Stadium and just outside of the hospital, and it runs along the rail line and then up Westchester and then across back to downtown.
Peter, on one of the earlier slides,
Yes.
it showed that the OZ 2.0 proposal would include 144.
Well, which 144?
I'm not sure, because I wrote down 144, but now I see 144.08. Oh, okay, 144.08. In one of the earlier slides, it showed that.
That's one of the, 144.08 is one of, there's 13
Okay.
total tracks that could be eligible for the city of High Point. So 144.08 is a highly industrial area. It's kind of in the southwestern portion. There's several parcels. There's one large parcel that's in 144.08 that staff did evaluate, but a good segment of that is actually in Davidson County.
Okay.
Which is that 606.02. So really for that development to make sense, you would need to be able to make sure it's eligible in Davidson County as well for that development to really occur. So that's one of the reasons that that one was not included.
Okay.
And then
Does that expand into the further down West English, like towards like where the Cohab space is, or not?
Well,
Cohab is included in 140.
Cohab's
Okay, okay.
kind of right under the G of High Point. It's
Cohab
Cohab
is included
space.
in 140.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a big track, huh?
Mhm.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the preliminary maps, Councilmember Peters, do not show that track 606.02 in Davidson County is eligible.
Okay, thank you.
And that really concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions along with other members of staff.
Thank you, Peter. But before we have any discussion, I'll move that we adopt our agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second to Councilman Andrew. Any discussion on adopting our agenda? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Our agenda is adopted. At this time, council, let's see if we have any questions for staff on this. If not, they'd like to know that we agree and we consent that this is the right direction to go in terms of recommended tracks for nomination to the governor.
I agree.
Okay, well, there's consensus amongst this group. Is there anything else you think you need from us on this?
Not at this time. When the maps are made permanent, when we learn more about the Department of Commerce process, we will be communicating to you through Madam Manager, and potentially coming back to you in another one of these sessions if there's additional information or approvals needed.
Okay, thank you. All right, much appreciated. Appreciate y'all making time to do that. Excited, and hopefully continue to see investment and growth come as a result of this opportunity. Next item is a closed session item for attorney-client privilege. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So, second.
Motion made by Councilman Holmes, second by Councilman Andrew. Any discussion on the motion to go into closed session? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and we are going into closed session.